Some products you can sell on Amazon are extremely easy to find, and others make it nearly impossible to succeed on Amazon. So in this video, we're ranking every product that you can sell on Amazon to figure out what the best way for you to make money on Amazon is starting today. And just to make it a little bit more fun, we're going to actually make a tier list here together, starting with the first category that you can sell on Amazon being grocery and food. And in my opinion, this is probably an S tier category for selling on Amazon. And as much as possible, I'm going to give you some extra detail on how to source these individual different categories and the best practices for your business, right? So we're going to really deliver a ton of value here. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to make a bunch of money selling in pretty much any of these categories, right? And within grocery specifically, this is something that's going to apply to sourcing basically any category, any type of products. Figure out what brands are like retail store private labels. So for example, I found a great value just as a very generic example of product that Walmart themselves sells, right? And I pull up this as an example because when we are looking at products that are sold by a specific retail store, we know that the other sellers on this listing, so as I'm looking on SellerAmp, I see all of the other competitors that I have to deal with on this listing. These people are all obviously buying this from Walmart, so they're going to have other leads that we can buy from Walmart, Walgreens, Vitacost, IHERB, wherever people sell groceries online, you can buy from there and submit those to get approved to sell on Amazon for one, as long as they are a legitimate retailer. So let's just go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to check out this seller right here. I see they've got 200 feedback, so they're a decent sized Amazon seller. They've probably sold at least $1 million or $2 on Amazon at this point, but it seems like they're most likely doing exactly what is the best way for new Amazon sellers to get started, which is just buying from big name brand websites. And specifically when I want to figure out what is a good opportunity in a certain niche, so in this case grocery is what we're focused on, I can just click that grocery button, and now I'm going to see all of their best grocery products all in a list. And I also get some extra data to basically see what I need to buy it for me to find some profit. And that's just one simple thing that makes it way easier to source profitable products, because we're not having to do the work of figure out what sells on Amazon, where can I get it cheap, all that kind of thing, right? All we need to do is go in here and think to ourselves, can I buy this for $1.23 for a name brand kind of water mix, that kind of thing? I doubt it. And you can see that's pretty obvious right here. It seems like it is $3.50 here, although this might actually be profitable. Let's check it out. Let's see. Okay, so it is a 3-pack. So I thought it was going to be a 12-pack for 13, but you know, somewhere with the listing there. Yeah, so definitely usually $3 or $4, and we need to buy it for $1 and some change to be profitable. So we can go ahead and skip that. Let's go ahead and Google this and see. Seems like these are actually potentially profitable. Let's dig in on this a little bit. See, our max cost is $5, but I can also see there's somebody on this listing for $8. So we're not typically going to be able to buy something for $5, sell it for $8. There's actually no buy box on this listing. So when I open it up, you can see there's no add to cart button. And that is why it is comparing it to the price that this particular seller has it at. We're not going to be able to buy anything for $5, sell it for $8 profitably. Usually you need to sell it for at least double or triple what you're buying it for. Let's see. It seems like Amazon's on this, so I don't really want to deal with competing with them. See, we got some prunes or something here. $7.50. Sometimes we can get like some coupon codes. Always worth like digging in, checking out something a little bit more detailed. So it seems like if we use like a 20% coupon on the top might be the best we can get. It's not going to be cheap enough. Let's check this out. So we got some coffee here, and this seems like it could be promising actually. Let's check this out. It's $5 for this jar right here. One 3.5 ounce. Picture says 3.5 ounce. I think, yeah, our source also said 3.5. So this could be a quick example here. And this, like I said, this applies at a fundamental to all of these categories. Whenever you're wanting to find something that you can actually sell, it's about going in here and let's see. We can actually get 10% off on our order as well. Punching in your email. You can use that as many times as you want to. So we can buy these for $4.50 and we can actually sell these for $15 too. And just as another note here, I do see that this says that we're not eligible to sell this product right now. And that's one of those things that for some reason holds back a ton of people from selling stuff on Amazon. You think you can't get approved to sell all these different categories and different brands. So let me just go through the process real quick. So this Cafe Bustelo here, whatever it is, we want to sell it in new condition, and let's see, sell this product. So if it doesn't ask us for invoice, so we got auto ungated right there. Nice. Could be an auto ungate for your store. If I refresh this, it should say that we are eligible. And yeah, you can see that's updated there. So we're able to get auto ungated on this right here. After you sell your first couple things on Amazon, you'll start getting auto ungated in a lot more opportunities, but there's also brands that are auto ungated right away as well. On the flip side, if this had asked us for an invoice, all we would have needed to do is take the invoice from buying directly from the brand here in this case, grab 10 units, submit it to Amazon. We're able to get approved to sell grocery and this specific brand. And we can use that to get approved to sell grocery and this specific brand if that was something that you are not approved to sell yet. That's going to apply to sourcing any of these categories. Hopefully that makes some sense. else, and let's go back into the next category being automotive and power sports. For me, this is a category I'm not super familiar with. The problem with the automotive category is that there are pretty heavy returns in auto. If you think about the types of products that people are selling, it's usually car parts and obviously just things that people are using to repair their auto. It says so in the name. And I don't know about you, but it feels like every time I try to fix something on my car, I end up buying the wrong part, need to return it, get a better part, get something that fits it a little bit differently, that kind of thing. So it does tend to be a decent return rate, and it is a little bit tricky to find discounts on auto parts. Typically, a lot of times when I'm sourcing online, the price is just kind of locked where it is. There's not nearly as many sales and coupons and discounts that I tend to find in this category. But that said, it is something that does fly under the radar. Not a lot of people get on Amazon to start selling oil filters and all kinds of random stuff. And when it comes to selling products like these, by the way, if you want to find listings with third-party sellers to see what other people are already winning with, I would just add like a random item in that category I want to see. The reason I had pack of is those are usually going to show me like weirder reseller friendly listings. The most popular oil filter listings on the platform are going to be sold by Amazon very cheaply. But if I go in on here, I can see all the different third-party sellers that are already sourcing automotive parts, and I'm able to learn very quickly like what brands might be somewhat viable for me to sell. So in this case, like Toyota, Honda, BMW makes total sense. Like a lot of these different brands, you've seen them out on the road, that kind of thing. So you're able to more quickly learn what brands people are having success with. But if we do go in here and start Googling things, you're typically going to see that there's lots of different places to source it from. It can also be a little bit tricky to know if you're sourcing legitimate auto parts. And personally, I've struggled to be able to create enough discount in this category. So for me, auto is somewhere like a low B to a C tier. Just for fun right now, I'm going to put it in the high C tier, and we can move on to video games. Video games is one of those categories that is super good during certain times of the year. So for example, during Q4, during the Christmas holiday rush, a lot of times there are Black Friday sales that are run on video games, and then they obviously spike in price during the month of the year where the most people are buying video games as presents and all that kind of thing. And there's also actually a lot of opportunity in the used video game market as well. I sold a bunch of used video games before I ever sold anything new on Amazon, because you can find them cheap at yard sales, thrift stores, that kind of thing. So for me, video games are probably a high B tier, maybe an A tier. I'm going to put them in B just because there's not a ton of different brands that we can get access to, which also means that there's not very many, at least very consistent sales that we can come back and repeatedly restock. The next category we need to rank is baby products. I've definitely sold my fair share of baby clothes and things like that, but when it comes to selling baby products, there can be some extra account health requirements, and you might also see Amazon request some child protection documents from you, basically, especially when it comes to selling formulas and anything that a baby will put in their body. You got to be very careful that you're buying legit inventory. You might have to go through some documentation approvals with Amazon, but as long as you're careful and you're making sure that you're sourcing from legitimate retailers, some products in this niche can be really good. It's just typically not going to be the most beginner friendly because, again, I don't see a ton of discounts happening in baby very often, especially in the things that are nice and consistent, and you might have to deal with some extra paperwork, basically. So I'm going to put this in C tier just for me personally. And as I'm going through this, I'd love to know where you disagree with me. Obviously, everyone sources different products in their Amazon business, so I don't want this to be like the end all be all for your business. You might end up looking into one of these categories and absolutely loving it when I'm not the biggest fan. So if you're new, try to sell everything. I'm just giving you some different pointers for what I've personally seen. When it comes to the top sporting brands, outdoors brands, that kind of thing, there's usually only a handful at the top of those categories. So it creates a lot of opportunities where different websites are competing with each other to run the best discounts on these products. And personally, I've sold a lot of apparel and sports balls and that kind of thing that fall under the sports and outdoors category. If you're wanting to break into this category, do exactly what we did with the Great Value Drink Mix, except think of an REI product, any outdoors brands, Merrell shoes, things like that, products that lots of third-party sellers are already having success with. So for me, sports and outdoors is probably an A tier niche. You're going to see a lot of opportunity here. It's probably not going to be the number one in your business, but there's been lots of months where it's in the top 3 to 5 for me, and definitely in terms of profit. And then when it comes to the pet supplies category, the nice thing about selling pet supplies is it's one of those things you hear people talk about it a lot as just like a classic business school example, where even when times are tough for people are always going to be ending up spending lots of money on their pets and their kids, right? That's a traditional advice. So the nice part about selling pet supplies is it is a somewhat recession-proof category for your business. And there's also lots of different websites that you can buy these items from. Think Chewy, PetSmart, Petco, all of those different websites. I've definitely spent a lot of money on those websites. And when you're sourcing pets, really this applies to any niche, but especially in pets, is let's say you found a profitable lead at Petco, make sure you're always taking advantage of discounted gift cards. So I can go to Card Bear, and this basically shows me the market for different discounted gift cards that I can buy. So if I go in here to Card Center, it seems I can immediately right now I can buy a $50 gift card for $43.75, which means any product I've found at Petco, I can immediately make it 12.5% cheaper, which makes a huge difference on a ton of products. Hopefully I don't need to explain why that's so important, but I especially see in the pet niche, there's a lot of discount margin creation of opportunity available with those discounted gift cards. And since it is one of those things that people always continue to spend money on, I'm going to put pet supplies in the A tier. For me, it would be S tier if there was a wider variety of brands that were available to be sold by third-party sellers. A lot of the pet supply niche is already owned by private label sellers, but there's still lots of things like dog toys, anything that goes into an aquarium, toys for your pets in general, that kind of thing that just consistently sell. But if it had more diversity of brands that were really popular, it'd probably be S tier for me. And with that in mind, one of my other favorite categories to sell in is the clothing, shoes, and jewelry category. And that is specifically for one reason. So I want to show you this as an example product that I actually found on a recent YouTube video, sourced this with you guys. But on this clothing item, you can see I found these. We were able to get 20% back on these items right here that we can buy for $20 each. So you can see this particular pair of shorts, we can buy for 16, sell it for 35. We make $5 profit per unit. But the really nice part about selling clothes is, as basically a trade-off for having to deal with returns, anytime you find a product, we can go in down here and check out the other variations. And right away, you can immediately see there's this version that sells for $39, this version that sells for a little less than $35. So all of these different sizes and colors, tons of different variations of this product, each and every one of those can be profitable. Once you've found one profitable item in the clothing niche, you've almost definitely found more profitable products, whether that's another variation or just searching that title on Amazon, finding similar items, that kind of thing. In this case, it's even easier. It's just all the same sizes and colors are already on this listing. And that showed me 3 other versions of these shorts that are already profitable. So as long as you're buying very consistently profitable items and keeping in mind that you will have returns in this niche, don't buy things that you're like wishy-washy on. You got to buy things that are very solidly profitable. Selling in the clothing, shoes, and jewelry category is definitely an S tier for me. And when it comes to selling in the DVD category, this is something that I've basically never done. The reason for that is it's really easy to end up in account health trouble, IP complaints, all that kind of thing. When it comes to selling DVDs, it's probably the most classic example of an industry that wants to avoid counterfeit products going out there. And it's very difficult to find them new and sell them profitably, especially sourcing them online. I know I've seen some opportunities for people who go out to retail stores, finding them on hidden clearances, that kind of thing. But just because of how hard they are to source online and the almost guaranteed account health complaints that you would usually be able to appeal as long as you're buying legit, but still a headache to deal with, that puts DVD into D tier for me. The beauty category is a very high opportunity category for pretty much any Amazon seller. One of the great parts about beauty is that there are so many coupons and sales and discounts going on all the time. It's one of those things that people don't typically need. So a lot of these websites do have to run pretty competitive sales. And beauty is one of those funny things where we're talking about recession-proof products in pet supplies. There's a very common kind of economics indicator being during a recession, things like lipstick start selling in higher volume. So even when times are tough, it actually does make demand increase in beauty by a little bit more. Maybe people are trying to impress each other, land that good job, whatever is causing that. A lot of times you actually do see beauty products sell more and more when people have a little bit less money. And within the beauty niche, if you've watched any of the past sourcing videos on my channel, you've seen me source some beauty products before. Especially within the beauty niche, there are things like loyalty rewards programs become very important. So I use Ulta points as a classic example of this. Anytime you're buying profitable products, a bunch of these different beauty retailers have programs like this where you get a point per dollar you spend or whatever, and then you can dedicate that towards more free inventory, more free beauty products that you can sell on your store. So definitely keep those in mind as you're sourcing the beauty category. The only con I have on the beauty category is that as Amazon gets more and more popular, there have been lots of counterfeits in different categories, and the beauty category has been hit really hard by that, unfortunately. So that does mean that a lot of the really popular brands are locked off for all Amazon sellers. If that were no longer the case, it would be an S tier category for me, but I still think it's a great opportunity. Just always make sure you're sticking to legit retailers. The toys and games category is another one of those that's really good during certain times of the year. I've definitely crushed selling toys and games during Q4, but for me personally, I don't tend to see a lot of coupons and sales going on in toys and games outside of the holiday rush, and that obviously makes it hard to find these items profitably. If you're doing retail arbitrage or you're going out to the stores, this is one of my favorite places to look because there's always toys from a movie that was popular a few months ago, things that are just getting clearanced out and becoming really cheap. It's one of my favorite places to look for retail arbitrage, but it's one of my least favorite places to look when it comes to online arbitrage. The other thing to think about with toys and games is that if it's for kids, you also are probably going to end up getting some documentation requests to make sure that, you know, your toy is safe for kids, that kind of thing, that you're actually selling on Amazon. So you might have to track down some documentation for that. But overall, especially if you're considering the Q4 potential of toys and games, I'm probably going to put that at the top of B tier for me. And that takes me to the books category. This is something I'm always very partial towards because it's actually how I started selling on Amazon, specifically selling used books on Amazon. If you're selling books in new condition, they fall under the same issue that DVDs do in terms of really easy IP complaints, copyright infringement, that kind of thing. These authors, they want to protect their books and make sure that people are getting legitimate products on Amazon. So when it comes to selling new books, it's not something that I would really ever recommend, but selling used books on Amazon is fantastic because they are abundant. Everyone thinks they're basically worthless until you go out and you start scanning some of those products with an app like SellerAmp, shows you what they'll sell for on Amazon, and you're able to make a good amount of money selling used books. In fact, I actually made my first $30,000 to $40,000 in profit, all off of used books, DVDs, old VCR players, that kind of thing. And just because they are a lot more abundant than DVDs, that puts books in probably a C tier product for me. Maybe just because I'm partial towards books, I'm going to put them in low B. Let me know if you disagree with that. It might not belong there, but just because that's how I got my start, I'm going to put it in B, and you're going to have to be happy with that. The camera and photo category is largely dominated by wholesalers and very expensive products, which are not something I typically like to mess with. When you sell expensive products on Amazon, you got to be really careful that no one's trying to scam you on returns and that kind of thing. The nice part about camera and photos, there are things like film where people will buy those same products over and over again, but for me, it doesn't have a ton of great deals that I see, at least pretty often. So I'm going to probably put this at the bottom of C tier. I've only ever found a couple products in that category, and that is also honestly similar to cell phones and accessories, especially for resellers. A lot of this is OtterBox, very popular phone case brands, very popular headphone brands, very popular iPhone, obviously very popular phone brands, that kind of thing. And not a lot of those are accessible to resellers. So for me, I'm going to put that in D tier, to be honest with you. If you are a private label seller, I'm sure there's lots of opportunity in there, but for resellers, it's probably not a very good opportunity. I've found a couple cases and that kind of thing on clearance, but really not a lot of opportunity, especially consistently, at least in my experience. That brings me to health and personal care. This is honestly one of my favorite categories to source because, again, it's one of those where a lot of different websites are selling a handful of very popular supplement brands and healthcare brands. And not only are there lots of sale opportunities in this category, there's also a lot of products that people tend to buy over and over again. It's very low return because people typically already know what they're looking for: vitamins, personal care products, that kind of thing. It's probably things they've been ordering for years and years, and they'll typically buy it and keep it. Some of those products the customers can't even return. So there's a lot of consistency in health and personal care. Never been one of my highest ROI categories, but it's always very consistent, and I tend to find a lot of replenishables that I can restock over and over again. So for me personally, just because I have made so much money looking at these renewable vitamin opportunities, all that kind of thing, this is probably an S tier category for me personally, so I'm going to put it up there. And that makes a lot of sense. Those top three right there have been my top three profit for a long time in my Amazon store. Another very solid category is home and garden. I would say, again, this is kind of one of those more seasonal categories, at least it is for me. I've found a lot of opportunity in this niche looking at things that are involved in seasonal harvests and pickling supplies and all kinds of things like that. Again, as we've already talked about, if you want to break into any of these categories, just start looking through the storefronts of people who are already having success with it. Look up pickling supplies on Amazon, see what they're selling, filter to home and garden, just like we did with grocery. I don't want to make this video an hour long, but that is the best way to find some new opportunity in home and garden if you're curious on that. Just because it's been a little bit seasonal for me, maybe that's just because of the products that I've sourced in home and garden. I'm probably going to put this in, I would say, like the top of B tier for me personally. It maybe is a low A. There's lots of good opportunities there. It's not a home run. I've never hit too many crazy home runs there, but I've also never really had a bad experience. So I think that feels pretty right. And that also takes me to industrial and scientific. This is one that honestly people are very much sleeping on. I haven't found as much profit here as I want to, but every time I do, I know it's a banger item because you'll end up selling a lot of like random replacement parts to these niche machines and all kinds of plumbing parts and just a lot of random stuff where no one gets on Amazon to start thinking about selling plumbing parts, but they are very essential. People need them, obviously. And this is probably one of those that would be an S tier category if there were lots of websites where there's sales on this kind of stuff, just because I'm typically buying these at retail price and there can be some tanking involved in that. That's probably an A tier category for me. And that pretty much wraps up our tier list here. So pause it, take a screenshot if you feel like you need to. And also let me know down below if you disagree with any of those placements. Would love to chat with you guys. Drop any questions, comments, always happy to chat with you guys as well. And if you've made it here, you're clearly serious about making money on Amazon. And the next step of that is going to be to get free trials of the software that you need to source products and manage your whole business. So SellerAmp and Boxing, you can try those for free for 2 weeks down below. And if you want to spend 2 seconds, help me out for free. If you like this video, click the subscribe button, help me at my goal of having 100,000 subscribers. But I really appreciate you watching this video. And if you want to see a 4-hour long complete guide on how to source, ship, and make money selling products on Amazon, click this video right here.